This man keeps all of their things going. James, thank you very much for everything you've done over here. I can't believe what an event you put on. Let's give him a big round of applause. Hey, so guys, we got a very exciting subject today. First of all, I'm Don Hobbs. Welcome to the International Growth Workshop. Pretty exciting times. You know, we're in a company that's got nothing but future that looks brighter and bigger and huger. And for all of you, of course, we're sitting here. It's ironic that we're sitting in a room with 1,300 people, and we've got this 50-state, country to deal with. And I think it's a little funny that we're in here talking about international. To be honest with you, there's we have this whole country to do, and yet we all know that it's super exciting. And if you weren't there in person, in June at the shareholders meeting, we were all told, it was announced that we are opening in October 2 countries. Who can tell me which countries? Australia and the UK, exactly. So we're very excited about that. Today we want to talk about that and many other countries and things that are happening. I've been talking to Jason Gessing, who many of you know, certainly Dave Kennord. Our presidents are, everybody's very interested in this, and this is a big deal. Today with me, we've got a panel of awesome people, and I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves. First of all, I'll start with you, Rick, because you've got, what did you say yesterday? No one wears turquoise like you do. No one wears salmon like you do. So, Rick, you guys start at the top.
Just name.
Tell us your name and then tell us where you are.
Rick Jiha, 40 years selling real estate, San Francisco Bay Area, 2.5 years with EXP.
Rosie Rodriguez, I'm in the LA area. I've been in real estate for about 20 years, and I've been with EXP for a year and a half.
I'm Dan Beer in San Diego, and I have been with EXP for 1.5 years, so 18 months now.
Glad to hear it. Give it to your friend there, next to AJ.
AJ Maida, and I've been with EXP for 2.5 years, just over. My real estate career was 7 years in Charlotte, North Carolina, but now I live in Puerto Rico.
Give them a big round of applause. Come on, these guys are... By the way, each of these 4 have the distinction of being monsters already in their business, and they're doing an incredible job of agent attraction, so we're having a lot of fun together. But now this thing about international growth, international expansion becomes a very exciting topic. And what's interesting is, I've been around the real estate space for about 40 years, and I can tell you that as a real estate agent, what's true is, we get up every morning, we think about how do we get our next listing, our next sale. We might venture into, in our world, how do we get our next agent. But most agents never think about other countries. If you're at RE/MAX right now, you're not sitting there going, how do I open Australia? How do I open, some other country, right? You're not thinking that way. And yet and I'm sure for you guys, wherever you were, because I know where most of you were in the past, you weren't thinking about international expansion. It wasn't part of your thought process. And yet here we sit today with this opportunity to build a company. Listen, I've heard too many numbers as to how many realtors there are in the world, but it's a lot. It's a lot, right? We've got 1.2 million or 3 million realtors, probably almost 2 million real estate licenses in this country alone. How many would you imagine are in all the other countries, right? So the opportunity is endless. And this company will continue to grow. And in a conversation I had with Jason Gessing just a few weeks back, he said, right now we have some contacts in so many countries that we literally, if it wasn't for the legal and the getting bank accounts and all the hard part, right? He said we could open 40 countries tomorrow. We've got contacts, connections, we've got people that have been delivered to the table, just awesome people. But it's gonna take some time, and of course there's also the scalability, right? There's all kinds of things to learn. So we were fortunate, Allison and I, and Allison, by the way, was going to be here. She's doing another process right now, so she's not here this afternoon with me. But we were fortunate enough to be with some of our team working on one of the people that's opening in the UK. So we have meetings every week with the UK. They're right now in process, actually recruiting. I can tell you it's super exciting to think about what it would be like to override a country, right? Super exciting to have the first agents in. Who then get the first agents, who get the first agents, who get the first agents. Can you imagine? Gene Frederick joined this company that was 432 agents. Canada right now has just over 500 agents. Can you imagine how big that's going to be? Can you imagine what the possibilities are throughout the world? Okay, so today we want to talk a little bit about this international growth thing, and I want to have each of you talk a little bit about your own thoughts about how we see international growth. Where are the relationships that we can get? How do we begin the process of thinking through, what's going to be happening? Because we're not opening anything but 2 countries this year. Next year, I understand we may open as many as 4. So remember, we could open 40, but we're not. And you have to pay careful attention to what we're opening, because it's really important that we're not messing countries up. And I'll talk about that a little bit before we get out of here today. But I want to make sure that we give some real time and attention to these guys and ladies, and this lady, because they have connections and they've been thinking about, what are their experiences? Who do they know, etc. So Rick, why don't you start us off and talk just a little bit about your own thoughts, relationships, and what you're looking at for international expansion.
Great, thank you. I have the pleasure of being married to an amazing wife who has built in the last 12 years an amazing international business in the network marketing industry. And we can take a lot from the lessons I've learned, working with her in that business, referring business to her about this. I was extremely excited sitting in the room in Orlando when Jason Gessing came on stage and introduced a UK guy and an Australian guy and said, we're going there. I freaked out. And I can tell you, I am super excited. But having had the experience of working with a company as big as the company that my wife works with, a multi-billion-dollar company they're in 50 countries, I know there's legislation, there's culture. I know what Jason must be going through to get it set up so that it's approved by the government. But the one thing that we were always warned through the company, I'll just say it, my wife's from the company called New Skin. And they were always warning us, look, don't do things that's going to piss the government off and, keep us from opening under their rules and their regulations. There's a lot of sensitivity to that. Jason said something brilliant on stage in Orlando. He said, we're starting with countries where the language isn't a barrier, right? So that's a very important thing to understand why they're doing that. And some of the other countries that are possibly coming on, while there may be a language barrier, most of those countries that I've seen as possibilities for next year also have a very strong affinity to speaking English. In other words, most of the citizens speak their language and English. The reason I say this is the common instinct is, I can afford a ticket to Australia. I'm just going to go there and start walking from real estate office to real estate office. Build local, go global. That's got to be your new saying. So, my wife introduced New Skin to a guy in San Francisco. Because of that one guy, her business went to 3 other countries all over the world within a few weeks. He knew a guy went to college with him. He talked to him. Well, he knew a girl that went to college with him, but she was married to a Swede living in Sweden. Then she knew people in Spain. And next thing you know, every year we're traveling to 6 or 7 countries so that she can speak to them. That's how it starts. Now, I had somebody out from my own team, my own sales team. She's here. She said, what should I do? I said, well, if you know anybody that is English or Australian, and she goes, you mean agents? I said, no. Do you know anyone who's English or Australian? She goes, yeah. I go, well, first, solidify your relationship, recreate it, do a Ford script, family, occupation, recreation themes, just with people. These are people that might refer you real estate anyway, so you should be in real estate. You should be in communication with them. I said, and then if they ask them, do you know anybody that's British that's also a real estate agent? You could build it that way. Now, we all have, you can Google Aussie Realtor. Just Google that and see what happens. You'll be surprised. A lot of people are saying I'm an Aussie Realtor. But really, you got to start with relationships, just like anybody tell you. I've been a coach for almost 30 years, and it's so hard to get realtors to focus on their database and their top 50. Their database and their top 50. So what I'm going to do is exactly what I'm telling you. I haven't really even started it. I have reached out to a couple longtime friends because I used to own 9 Keller Williams offices at one point, and I had Aussie realtors and I had British realtors, and I'm calling all of them already. But I'm also looking forward to the fact that we are going to go in some of the biggest countries, and I'm not going to break the rules, but I'm talking to a Chinese broker next week that has their own independent little real estate office of 120 agents. She just heard. I've been trying to get her to sit down with me. No. She goes, I heard you guys are expanding internationally. I'd like to talk to you next week. I'm like, oh, magic. I've been calling you for 6 months. So I'm going to pass the mic. I'm sure there's a lot of brilliance here, but stick to your guns, ladies and gentlemen. Don't break rules and don't buy a flight right now.
That's awesome, Rick. Rosie, where's your plans and what are your thoughts? And where are you at right now with your international plans?
Well, I think that what's amazing about our company, first of all, is that it really brings the world, right, to our fingertips. And so I think that that's one of the things that's very exciting about being at EXP, because the vision that was painted about being able to log into our system and then pop into Spain, into Australia, to Mexico is here. It's just a matter of, again, all the legalities and whatnot. And I think one of the things that I've learned, in this journey of when are we going to open up, this country and that country, is that every country has different regulations and they operate differently. And so we understand our culture in the United States, right? You understand your market in your local city. And so I think the very first opportunity that you have is the relationships that you have locally. I mean, in California, where I'm from, we only have 3,000 agents. So how big is that opportunity? EXP. We only have 3,000 EXP agents, and so how big is that opportunity? And so although I'm incredibly driven and competitive and hungry to conquer the world, I know that my best opportunity is going to be in my local market. And I know that we are a team, we are a company of innovators, and I know that they're doing everything they can to get us into the entire world in due time. So I agree with Rick as well. I do have relationships in other countries, and so I've just reconnected. And my first step is really understanding how they do business in those relationships. Like, hey, tell me, how do you guys, manage transactions? What kind of MLS do you have? Do you have an MLS? How do agents get licensed? All those things. I want to understand how they transact. And if I can understand, how they do business and what their culture is like, then when our culture goes into their environment, I'll be in a better position to, present the value of what we offer. So I would agree with Rick and say, reach out to your relationships and your connections and just say, hey, help me understand. If you've got your foot, into a certain country, you've got a really good connection there, then reconnect. This is not an opportunity for them right now. Or for you, right? You have to remember that. Right now your opportunity is right here, so focus. But once it is, then you're going to be in a better position to present that opportunity, and they're going to be in a good position to take advantage of it and be one of the first ones. So that's what I would recommend. I just want to add one thing. It's kind of like investing, right? If you're going to invest, people say at least they've told me, and I follow this rule, kind of invest locally or what you know, invest in what you know. And then once you do that, you can expand into other things. I don't invest into a lot of commercial stuff because I don't really know a lot of commercial, but I do know residential, and so I tend to invest into residential. So, if you know and understand your local market, and you understand how business is done in California, or Michigan, or Oregon, wherever you're at, then start there, right? So that's it. Thank you.
Hey, Daniel, before we go there real quickly, then I have 1 second. So I want to just kind of recap, because I think what you talked about, Rick, that's so important to me is that there are regulations. Rosie, what you're saying is we need to understand there's different cultures, different laws, different regulations. And we aren't aware of those, right? We aren't aware of those. In fact, just operating, and I've only had a small piece of it in our weekly calls, but I'm telling you, just in the UK alone, they speak English, right? For the most part, they have, not always, you can't always understand. What's that? Yes, and I totally get that. I know. So I always say, we're the ones with the accent. I get that, right? We started off over there. So, but what's interesting is that we talk about some of the simplest things like bank accounts. How about this one? How about commissions? How does commissions relate to then what the cap is going to have to be? And how it's going to affect our revenue share. So we just think, oh, you just take what we're going to do. There's a $16,000 cap, and it's not anything like that. Every country is going to have its own set of rules and parameters. So it's really, so in fact, we were talking to a guy yesterday. He says he's been talking to somebody in Australia, Is Paul here? There he is. So Paul is a good friend of ours, and stand up, Paul, for a second, just so I can make my point. Say something, Paul. Just talk to us for a second.
I'm really excited about the show.
So when I first met Paul, I was like, "You're not supposed to sound like that. You're not supposed to have that accent, right?" But he does have that accent. And he was talking to people that he knows in Australia. And they started asking questions. Well, what's the cap? He goes, I have no clue. How's the commission structure? He goes, I have no clue. I'm like, he's getting it. It's like, why bother calling? I have no clue, right? But you do have to start getting the relationships. And Rosie, that's what you were talking about. Build those relationships, and let's start getting those in place. And by the way, if you've got somebody who owns a real estate company in a foreign land, that's a pretty darn good contact. How many of you know there's an international growth workplace group? Okay, there's an international workplace group. Join it. You'll see the things that are going on. You'll see the progress being made. You'll see the things that are being talked about. And it'll give you some sensitivity and some awareness about who you know that could be a possible great lead, who, by the way, then goes to Jason, guessing, who then goes and starts making those contacts and saying, is this really a viable opportunity for us? If so, I mean, part of it is, we've always said in foreign and in another company that many of us were part of, it was always, it's the who that helps you grow, right? You got to find your who. So if we got the right who, there's potential. So, Daniel, talk to us about what's going on in your world. You're down there in San Diego, right on a border town, but I also know you said Mexico City.
Yeah, so I'm from Mexico City, and my first language is Spanish. The majority of my family still lives in Mexico City. So I have relationships in Mexico City, and so what I'm doing is I'm talking to, in Tijuana, Guadalajara. So in any case, I'm talking to these people who I know, that's a key word, I know them. I'm also being introduced to some people via family, via maybe my dad's relationships, grandparents' relationships, uncles' relationships, etc. And I'm starting to set up, I'm starting to set the stage to the fastest growing company in the history of real estate in the United States, with some of the country's most renowned realtors that are selling a lot of houses on a regular basis, that are building a great company that we are going to be expanding into their market. And I'm setting the stage. Actually, the most interesting part is they all say, oh great, well, so how much are the licenses? And so they're thinking they have to buy the master license to then bring it over, etc. But in any case, after educating them on that this works a little bit differently, and that's why it is such, that's why they have to be interested in what we're talking about. The thing I'm doing is just setting that stage and letting them know I don't know exactly when we'll be there. I've been telling people it's just a little gut feeling. I've been saying maybe I'm feeling like possibly Q1, but I'll update you later, but it's probably not this year. In any case, because you don't want, if you create too much excitement right now, it'll burn out, fizzle away, and where was all that excitement that we gave them? It's going to feel like a little bit of an empty promise by the time I'm actually ready to go. So, with that, I want you to really understand, and I think most of us do, but just how profound this idea is. Again, they all ask, what is the cost of the license? How much does a territory cost? And you can take virtually any other company down there, and you can write a 7 or an 8-figure check for the opportunity to do so. And so we really have an incredible opportunity. I wasn't thinking of it that way, but you could be Gene Frederick of Mexico, or of the UK, or of Australia, etc. Now, you may not have family in Mexico City. You may not be from Mexico City yourself. Your first language may not be Spanish, but you can still have a massive impact on international expansion. So my sponsor, if you know Curtis Johnson, is about the whitest, most gingery guy in the United States. But because he has me, he's going to expand into Mexico. Does that make sense? So you don't have to have that expansion come from you. That expansion can come from somebody that you get into a relationship with. So something I would be doing if you feel like, well, boy, I really only do know people here in the United States, that's fine, but can you build relationships with Russian agents and Chinese agents and Mexican agents and Japanese agents, etc.? that would be a phenomenal way for you to own a piece of those countries. So it doesn't have to be you flying into Mexico City to actually do that. Does that make sense? So start figuring out where you can build relationships potentially locally if you don't have them yourself in those other places. Now I'll tell you what I'm not doing. I haven't made a single call into the UK or Australia because I don't have relationships there, and you'll never find me in the phone book just calling people. And that's something we all have to knock it off, including here locally. Here's something interesting for you. So I have 980 something people in my downline. I have made 0 cold calls, ever. I would bet anything, I've never asked him the question, you got 1,000 something people, I would bet he's never made one. The people on stage haven't made one either. So why are why are so many people mimicking what doesn't work from people who it's not working for?
Amen.
Just stop. Just stop. But that's all I have. And normally I have more. But here's the thing. This thing's just starting, right? I mean, how am I going to be an international expansion expert? This is just starting. But what I do know is do it right. Figure out who your relationships are. And realize that I don't know a single person in Japan, but if that's an intention of mine, then I can make the right friends in San Diego who will then have those relationships. Here's something that will happen too. Because I will be in Mexico, well, I don't know, it hasn't happened yet, but I'd be willing to bet that some of them will have relationships in Argentina, and in Spain, and in Guatemala, etc.
Yeah, perfect, Daniel. That's awesome. Hey, I want to make one quick note, and it just came to me as you were talking. First of all, I love what both of you said, which is the way to start our international expansion is with people in the U.S. who have, various cultural, and language opportunities, right? That will open up things for us as those things come up. If you have relationships, absolutely. But I was thinking about one other thing that probably most of you don't know. And that is when you open in another country. So again, we've only got 2 that we're opening in, but this has already come out. When you open in those countries, the person that your first line person that you bring in that country is on your second line. The company has a position between you and that person. So we actually have 6 levels of revenue share in other countries and not 7. Okay, so the company takes a position. There's, what's it called, Nicole? It's buffer, or what's the? Buffer. So we have a buffer in there, and then the second, that first level person to you really is second level, third level, et cetera, all the way through. So just keep in mind there's some differences, and just want to make sure that you're aware of that. We're going to open up to questions in 1 second. Hold on, let's get to AJ. AJ, you just moved, dude. You just up and moved. You've been traveling the country. You've been doing all the foreign lands called 50 states, and now you've landed in Puerto Rico. So talk to us about what's been going on with you and where do you see this going?
Awesome, thanks. So who here, raise your hand if you already know an agent in a different country that you want to talk to about EXP.
Awesome.
So about half the room, so that's awesome. So what I'm going to share is going to help you guys and also the people who don't know anyone in a different country. So, and also I want to leave you with 3 things that you can take action on, and those things can also help you with your domestic agent attraction. So the first one is, we already touched on it a little bit, but start growing deep here, because it's more likely that once you have a large organization here, someone in that organization is going to help you open additional countries. My boy Bill back there and I, in our downline, the guy that's opening the UK, Adam Day, that was on stage at Shareholders, if you're there, he's in our downline, and it's not because I knew him or Bill knew him, it's because one of the guys in our downline knew him and is from the UK. So that's really exciting. So start now. What you can do is just start now where you are in your local town and start building. And once you have a large enough organization of a couple hundred people, I can probably promise you that someone in a different country one day is going to show up in the joining dashboard, and it's going to be really exciting. We have agents in, I think now 5 Canadian provinces, or 40 states, and now the UK, and that's just how it organically develops. So start building here now. And the second and third thing I'm going to share with you is how to do that. So the second thing is, because we can't be cold calling, and we shouldn't because it's not effective in the first place. Like Dan said, it's, you should be following a model, and that's what you're learning here. So start by building relationships through being social on social media. It's funny, we get these friend requests from people on Facebook or Instagram, and we never do anything with it. So start being more intentional with that. So one of the reasons I had a lot of success in agent attractions, because I started doing that even before I joined EXP, was just friend requesting agents all around the country for referrals. So I organically grew up agents on my Facebook, and they would see my post. And then when I joined EXP and I started talking about it and sharing positive, uplifting stuff, being an attractive character, because it's agent attraction, people want to see you, be negative on social media, so be positive. You'll have people just reaching out to you. I had I think the first or second team leader ever in Dubai. She's still with KW, but she reached out to me about a year and a half ago asking me about EXP. And I was able to share a little bit about it with her. And to my knowledge, we don't have any plans on going there, but that's pretty cool. That's just from a Facebook friend. Same thing with Instagram, happened with a guy in Brazil. So start friend requesting people on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, things like that. I would make a goal. I mean, I only have 3,500 friends on Facebook. Your max is 5,000. So whatever your number is today, maybe double or triple it by the end of the year. And don't be spamming these people, but when they accept your friend request, do say, hi, how's the market over here? Build a relationship, and then when the time's right, maybe share EXP once you have that relationship established. So start doing that. And then the third thing is, and this hit me, and I've been really sporadic with my content strategy with like YouTube and podcasting and blogging over the course of a few years. But what I have done is put up a few YouTube videos. And the guy that's opening Australia, when I saw him at shareholders meeting, he came up to me and he's like, AJ, what's up, man? I saw your YouTube video about why you left Keller Williams. It was awesome. But apparently it wasn't good enough for him to reach out to me, so I'm not his sponsor. But the thought process is, this guy in Australia watched my YouTube video here in America, and that's a big opportunity, because I look at my YouTube analytics and there's countries that I never even heard of where people are watching my YouTube videos. I have no idea why, but they are. So start. It can be a blog, YouTube channel, or a podcast that all has great international reach. So those are my tips that you can use.
That's awesome, AJ. Thank you very much.
Let me add something really quickly to that. So, those Facebook friend requests, he was talking about, and rightfully so, making, just reaching out to other agents. Also, our sales businesses can benefit from that, but don't we also receive them from agents we've never heard of all the time? So here's the truth. Again, this is just me. Get to know me. You like it, you might not. But me, before I was at EXP, I just ignored it. I wasn't just in the business of accepting random friend requests from people I wasn't really sure why they were trying to. I just didn't get it. Today, you might not like this, but it's the truth. Now, I wish I could accept a friend request from everybody in the room, but if you friend request me, I'm not going to accept it. I only accept from non-EXP agents. Not because I don't want to be connected to you, but Facebook limits me to 5,000 people. I wish they didn't. If they got rid of that, I'd connect with everybody. So, if I get a friend request, are they at the EXP? I better really know them. If I really know, if he sends me one, I know him, I'm going to accept it. But if I don't know, then I'm sorry, I need to reserve that space for all of the non-EXP agents that are friend requesting me. And unlike what I used to do, okay, accept, move on with my day, they all get a message. Thanks for the connection. All right, just say thanks for the connection. Are you wanting to take a look at what my group is doing at EXP and the mastermind environment that we've built? And that's it. That works really well. You get more yeses than you could ever think. I mean, there is some reason that person friend requested you, that you weren't just good looking enough that they decided to do it randomly, right? Like, there's a reason they sent you that. And being at the company we're at, it may have very well been because you made it known what you're doing, that you're enjoying it. Hopefully, you talked about a positive profile on Facebook, constant social media content. And if you're doing that, these friend requests come even more often, giving you the opportunity to send that little simple message more often, and then engage in a conversation. And by the way, the ones that don't, they respond really cool. No, but I just, thanks so much, or, it's always really nice on the way back, even when it doesn't work.
I like your name. I like your name. That's why they're a friend of you. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's take some questions. Let's take some questions about. Whoa.
Is it a personal page or a business page?
Personal.
Personal.
Excellent. Back there, hand right in front of that gentleman.
All right, thank you. I have a question too. So you said earlier that if you're doing international expansion, that the company takes a level, correct?
There's a spot in between, the buffer spot, yes.
So let's say you only add, you're under 5 people, so you have to unlock your second downline yet. Whether you, if you had 5 people in the UK, let's say, would those not be, would you not get
Well,
paid?
didn't they change that recently? Isn't our second and third level now open at all times?
Yeah, second and third level is. No, second level is. First and second level are.
You have second level. So it doesn't matter if you have 0.
That's a really good question that apparently we don't have the answer to. Yeah, exactly. For sure. You know what? Go into to the International Growth Group and post that question and see if we get answers. If you don't, text me. I'll make sure that we get the answer from one of the executives.
What's your number?
What's that?
What's your number?
949-929-5185. You didn't think I was going to give it to you, did you? 949-929-5185. Don Hobbs.
Can you repeat that, please?
949-929-5185. Yes, the lady from the UK.
Yes, thank you. So I actually, from school, was a real estate agent in the UK. I was in the realtor here. Is the plan to go specifically to England, or are we going to try and do Scotland also? Because obviously the rules and regulations are different between the two. So when we say UK, what do we really mean?
Do we mean Northern Ireland as well?
Yeah,
Let's start with those two, just in case.
so here's what we know so far. The UK England is the only country right now that we're talking to, but we've got somebody in. I want to say Ireland, but Scotland, that we are talking to that may be, again, but next country some other time, not this week.
Great.
Right? Not this October. Yes, ma'am.
When we go into the UK and Australia, is there going to be like a wave of executives from EXP going to?
Is when we open up, or is going to be a wave of executives going over?
To initiate the first movement going in to kind of use as a building block to do this, because you've already done it in Canada. So is going to be replicated like that in England as well?
Thank you. Got it. Thanks, Rob. So here's what we know so far is that we know we've already had executives over in the UK laying some of the groundwork. I mean, I know right now we're in legal. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on, of course. When it opens, my suspicion is we will have a couple people that will be there like for the opening. Okay. And my guess is there'll be a lot of festivities leading up to it. And it will be, at first, what I suspect will happen, and listen to this, it's really important for all of you. What I suspect will happen is there's going to be, right now we call it a whisper campaign. So these guys are out there and they're just talking to people they specifically know, and they're beginning to work with the possibility of we're going to be opening soon. Here's what it may look like. They're getting closer and closer to specific details. They're beginning that whisper campaign right now. It'll get louder after October, whenever the official opening is. And after that, there will be a time when it's going to be much more publicized, and everybody who has fun and people there can start taking part. Until then, I'd be very safe about it. I think one of the things that was said by a couple people is the regulations and the legislation is so important. And by the way, we've already had it said to us, there are a couple countries that are already pissed off, I think was the word you used, pissed off at us for some of the entry, the calls, like the do not call, like you're just pounding people, right? We can't do that, guys. I'll tell you what Dave Kenora did say, and that is, if you're responsible for shutting a country down, trust me, you won't be with this company. Okay? So I just want you to hear that. It's not to be a negative, it's just to say, be careful, be smart, and really remember, we're all one country and are all one company, and we want the best for all of us. A question right here.
So given what you've just told us, what are the marketing materials that we can use? Do we have a video? Do we have something in marketing? What, I mean, you all are talking about the rules. What are the rules? What can we send?
We're not open in any country yet, so again, that's why this
So
is,
we
we're
can't
a little
send,
premature.
or we
So
can't
we have
market?
people there that are watching some videos, but the fact is, nothing there is accurate because the cap's not the same. So all you're doing is talking about the possibility of something. And again, I think the best thing that you heard from the panel is build relationships, put yourself in a position to win. When the time is right, you're going to have the materials you need.
Remember
When
something
will
too.
we be getting the materials, and when will, like, if we know we want to sign people up?
Yes, after it's open, we'll have that option. Until then, we won't.
Remember something quickly, and this may not apply as much possibly to the UK or Australia, but certainly in a place like Mexico, and the deeper you go into third world environments, it's relationship based. I mean, you calling people randomly, that's a frightening thing to them.
It will have no value.
Okay? So the best thing you can do if you don't own the relationships, again, is build relationships with the people that do in your domestic market. You know, I didn't think of saying this earlier, but there's people in my downline that are Vietnamese agents. I'm going to have a presence in Vietnam. So do that, or reach out to your own relationships. But I promise you, start cold calling people in Mexico, it's a totally different environment of safety, all kinds of things come into play. It's not going to go well.
So we're going to take 2 questions. Any other questions beyond that? We will. I'll stick around for a few minutes. Tony.
I'm from Australia. I'm from Melbourne. And I was very surprised when they opened Australia because it's so bloody far away, number one. Number two is that they don't have a sort of MLS system. So if, say, Daniel had a brokerage and I had a brokerage, I don't know what he's got for sale, he doesn't know what I've got for sale. And the broker gets most of the money, the agents get peanuts, and most of the sales are done via auction. And like what Daniel, piggyback on what he said, do not call, like they said here. Don't mass email and mass text and mass whatever else, because it's very unethical and you bring EXP down to the ground. So keep it up.
Amen. Gentleman back there.
So,
give us a good one. This is the final. This is the closeout right here.
It really is, because it addresses a lot of the things that people are asking.
Perfect.
The international group and workplace, you should go join it. I've been on it for about 6 weeks now. Adam Day in UK, and I can't remember the gentleman's name in Australia. They're both on LinkedIn. You should go get on LinkedIn and connect with them. I did an invitation, and within hours, I was connected with them. Adam Day is doing videos constantly on LinkedIn. He's already talking about agents that are signed up for EXP at whatever level they are over there.
Yes.
So it's all organized, it's all happening, and there's also a form. If you have someone that you know in those countries, you mentioned Jason Guessing is doing some vetting. You need to fill out that form, you need to have them sign it. That needs to go to whomever at EXP. You then register that person. So it's not a big free-for-all. You really need to dive in, follow the rules, do this thing right, and there is a path to success for everybody.
What I love is the way this company collaborates, cooperates, and this meeting would not have happened in any other company.
Right.
So let's thank our panelists.